wasn't muted. You were muted. Hello, we are back. Let's switch on over to Umineko no Naku Koro ni. What? Sha. Ah! Alas, because I do take this very seriously, I will have to say goodbye to my boobies for now. Goodbye, boobies. And then let me make a quick post on the interwebs. Okay. Why won't you let me post it? Discard? Quote. Post. Okay. There we go. Hi! Hello! Hello, hello. As is bad. Is sad? Why are you sad? Don't be sad or bad. Alright, guys, let's go ahead and load this up. Cookies. I don't want to think about cookies right now, as me and cookies don't get along right now. Oh, it's been a while. Let's see. Backlog. Okay, so all right, so if we take a moment to recount where we left off. Unfortunately, the first Twilight has officially passed. 6 are dead. And if we actually recall, the 6 that are dead are Kraus, Jessica's father, both of Battler's parents, Rudolph and his stepmom Kyrie. Maria's mother Rosa is dead, and the 2 servants Goda and Shannon are also dead. Everybody's faces have been mauled in some way. Seems to be after death. Leaving most of them unrecognizable, if not for their bodies and clothing. So, obviously, this is not good. So we need to find out who done it, why done it, and everything else. So... And why is this not full screen? Let's see. Options. Where can I... I'll just have to stretch the screen myself. Alright, let's do this. Oh, that's right. It doesn't fill the whole thing correctly. Lock that in place. PC game. That's right. I remember now. So we gotta stretch it a wee bit. Okay. Good enough. Alrighty, guys. Let's continue on. I apologize if my voice acting for this is not going to be on, on par. We're going to get it figured out. And I'll try to remember some of the voices as we go. Each one of the survivors has some kind of connection to one of the 6 victims. Uncle Krause's death brought Jessica the grief of losing a family member. The deaths of Dad and Kyrie-san brought me sorrow, while Aunt Rose's death brought Maria sorrow. Goda-san's death probably shocked his fellow servants, and Shannon-chan's death brought grief to both George Aniki, who had proposed to her, and Kanin-kun, who had loved her like an older sister. Everyone now on this island has received an equal amount of sadness. Aunt Ava was sure that the servants were in cahoots. But then, how could you explain the deaths of Goda-san and Shannon-chan? At any rate, by this argument, the grief caused by the 6 deaths hit everyone but Aunt Ava and Uncle Hideyoshi. Even Aunt Ava, who had directed suspicion at the servants and acted as though she herself was beyond suspicion, could not be ruled out as a suspect. In the first place, she was able to argue that the servants were suspicious by focusing on the shutter's key. But if you look at it from a perspective of motive and who would gain, Aunt Ava's name rises to the top of the list. I know what you're thinking, Battler. Huh? Oh no. No, please, don't tell anybody. About how my head's so full of obscene stuff. I am the one who's going to gain the most from these murders. Since I'm going to be suspected anyway, I might as well get it out in the open. I tried to dodge the issue by joking around, but apparently it didn't work. The inheritance will be divided into as many parts as there are siblings. But right now, I'm the only one of the 4 left. All of the assets of the Ushinomiya family will become mine. If Uncle Hideyoshi heard you, he'd say, "Could you give it a rest? It's not funny." I'm sorry. I was just... Beatrice! I'm sorry. I was just fooling around, since I'm going to be suspected anyway, no matter how much I try to smooth it over. That's why, from my point of view, this murder might have been designed to cast suspicion on me. Unfortunately, my alibi for last night is weak. Tell me a bit more about last night. As you know, the discussion between the siblings of how to slice up and eat the inheritance continued until late in the night. But I don't know how late it lasted. My husband and I had woken up early that morning. We were so sleepy, and a little past midnight, they let us go. We then returned to the guest house and rested there. Can anyone other than Uncle Hideyoshi prove that? No, wait, it's not like I suspected you or anything, okay? Ada, are you sure about that? I don't know if it counts as proof, but when we returned to the guest house, we were greeted by Genji-san, who asked if we needed a towel. Big yawn. I think that should be enough to prove we returned to the guest house a little after midnight. Though, if my theory was correct, the servants would be all in cahoots, and that wouldn't actually make for much of an alibi. Hey, you've got a point there. Guess that means I'm playing detective with the real culprit right now, huh? However, let me say this for my honor's sake. If I was after the inheritance, I'd never commit such a bizarre set of murders. After all, if I just wanted to make them forfeit their rights to the inheritance, it wouldn't matter to me how they died. It'd be much smarter of me to try and make their deaths look like accidents. Especially if you're assuming I laid out some careful plan that involved even the servants. You've got a point there. If you're killing someone for personal gain, you definitely shouldn't make it look like a murder. Exactly. That's why I'm in such a blue mood. The police will probably treat me like the mastermind and investigate all kinds of things. Not fun at all. Aunt Ava shrugged with a bitter smile. It was just as easy to suspect Aunt Ava as it was to suspect the servants. So, if we spin the chessboard around, does that make it impossible for the culprit to be her, suspicious as she is? However, If that sort of argument always works, then motive can never help us in any way. No, that can't be right. Knowing the motive must give us power clues. Sorry. Why do I always get sleepy when I read Umineko? No, that can't be right. Knowing the motive must give us powerful clues towards knowing the culprit. That's why murders from all time periods disguise crimes in complicated ways, cleverly preventing their motives from being discovered. I think it comforts you. It does, yeah. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Every time I spin the chessboard around, it keeps flipping from front to back and back to front. Are my thoughts bringing me closer to the truth? Or are they... Moida is comfortable. Exactly. Samba was showing me this new game that's really awesome pixel-ish art and gory and a Metroidvania style. I might have to try it. Aunt Ava didn't want to talk anymore on that, so I folded my arms and headed to the window to cool my head a little. As I looked over the parlor, I saw George Aniki and the others gathered, talking. It looked like they were talking about the magic circle that had been painted onto the shutter. As Uncle Hideyoshi thought back to the time, he started drawing the shape in the margins of Maria's notebook. Can't play a new game until you've definitely for sure beat Baldur's Gate 3, which will definitely happen. Oh yeah, absolutely. I see. Since Maria was second only to grandfather in knowledge of the occult, she might understand what it meant. I think it was probably something like that. There was a mark that looked like a variation of a cross. And then surrounding the circle all around the perimeter were these closely packed strange letters on all four sides of the cross. And in the four corners, there was something written. It didn't look like the alphabet or something like that. It was what they call ancient characters. Oh god, I don't remember. And around the top of the circumference, there was a small mark. I'll have to go back and listen to my past ones. 5 small circles arranged in a plus sign, and strange lines connecting them. Ah, yeah, there was definitely something like that drawn there. Yep, there's no mistaking the shape. I don't understand the thin characters, but the arrangement was nearly the same. Everyone was staring down at the shape, so I stared down at it too. From what I'd heard, this had been painted on the shutter storehouse with some material that looked like blood. I see. This sure is unsettling. Grandfather's probably the only one who'd want to draw something this weird. Seriously, where did he go? I want to grab him and ask what the hell this is supposed to mean. Jessica's voice contained impatience and anger. She hadn't gone so far to say grandfather was the culprit. But she seemed sure that grandfather knew something about the culprit's background. Of course, if you were searching for a link connecting the Ushirimiya family to the occult, 10 out of 10 people would think it's grandfather. Also, to a person who knew nothing of the occult, the strange mark would have no meaning. Which meant that this might have been something addressed to grandfather. That's right, and the reason the crime was shown to the survivors was so they'd find this. In that case, where had grandfather, the essential recipient of this message, disappeared off to? Does this shape ring any bells? Maria looked at the shape with a serious face. How's the audio level, by the way? Does the game need to be turned up more? Maybe she was enthusiastic because this is her area of expertise. However, her appearance was that of someone separated from the events at hand. As though this thing hadn't been drawn on the shutter closed around her mother's corpse. Oh, shush, blah blah. My first impression was that the design resembled a German cross. Oh, it certainly does have that kind of design. Does that mean it has something to do with Germany? The German cross was originally a crest from a religious order of knights, and was supposed to protect pilgrims traveling to sacred places. So, in other words, this magic circle might have some religious meaning? This is starting to sound like gibberish. When I looked over at all of them, preparing to jump into the discussion, something shocked me. Maria was smiling, an eerie and incomprehensible expression on her face. It was almost as if she was making fun of everyone's ignorance. It was an expression I wouldn't have dreamed to find on Maria's face. Hi, I finally made an Umineko stream! Hi, Majo! Ooh, Maria, creepy moment! Ooh! I wouldn't have dreamed to find on Maria's face. And she laughed. That eerie, jarring laugh was something I didn't want to believe was possible, even though I was looking at it right in front of my eyes. You people aren't even close! Can't you tell just by looking? While everyone was busy being scared out of their wits, Maria kept on cackling happily by herself. After all, that laugh was suddenly and abruptly cut off. But her expression still looked like it belonged to someone completely different from Maria. This is the 7th magic circle of the sun. The characters are written in Hebrew. Give it here. Sure. Maria stole the writing materials from the stunned Hideyoshi's hand. She then started drawing another magic circle with a rustle right next to the one Hideyoshi had drawn. See? It looks sort of like this, right? Yes, it was. Maria! Incredible! You really do know a lot. Jessica tried to smooth things over by praising Maria. Maybe she wanted to confirm that this was still the Maria we all knew so well. But Maria didn't answer in any way in particular. Maria began swiftly writing unfamiliar characters in the corners of the sheet. When Uncle Hideyoshi and Dr. Nanjo saw them, their eyes immediately began to open wide. Written on the top and bottom and left and right are the names of the angels who preside over wind, fire, earth, and water. Chasan, Aro, Forluken, and oh god, I can't say these. Talaidhan, Had. And in the 4 corners are the names of the 4 great kings: Ariel, Seraph, Tharsis, and Cherub. Is that what you saw? Even if they hadn't been correctly even if they hadn't been able to correctly write what they'd seen, when they were once again shown something identical, it wasn't difficult for them to realize the two were the same. She was spanking. No, this is not a laughing matter. I know, Maria is such a little Maria. When Maria asked them whether or not it matched, Uncle Hideyoshi and Nanjo nodded over and over again. There's no mistake, that's it! I'm sure there were characters that looked like that. How were you able to write something like that? There's also characters written around the circumference. I know. Like this, right? Maria quickly began to surround the circumference with more Hebrew writing. It's from Psalms of the Old Testament, the 16th and 17th verses of the 116th Psalm. You must have read the Bible, or at least read the Bible, right? Acting as though knowing this was only common sense, Maria laughed. For a while, everyone, including me, was at a loss for words. A little later, George Aniki returned to his senses and slowly managed to speak. That's incredible. I'm surprised. So, what meaning does this magical circle have?
It's a magical circle to borrow the power of the sun. He who wears it as a talisman drawn in gold shall be able to break free from the bonds of any prison and receive the power to gain freedom.
To break free from the bonds? And gain freedom. It sounds deep.
The word bonds is not limited in its interpretation to some kind of physical object. Therefore, it does not only hold meaning for people locked up in an actual jail. It can also refer to the release of mental bonds such as ties of obligation and inescapable fate.
Ties of obligation and inescapable fate, you say? No laughing matter indeed. Know what she should laugh at? Clowns. Those dudes are hilarious. That's also pretty deep. But I really don't understand. What does this have to do with those 6 bodies? Far from being released, they were killed and stuffed in the storehouse, weren't they?
It's not like the magical circle was drawn for their sakes. The 6 of them were there for the sake of the magic circle.
It's truly pitiable. Pitiable? Pitiable, sorry.
It is truly pitiable.
What do you mean? What in the world do you mean when you say the 6 of them were there for the sake of the magic circle? Maria lifted up her pointer finger and waggled it as if she were making fun of us.
That's written around the circumference. Can't you read it? Psalms chapter 116, verses 16 and 17. I'll read it for you. The Lord has freed me from my chains. I will offer to you the sacrifice of thanksgiving and will call to the name of the Lord. See?
See, you say? I've got no idea what you're talking about. You're saying they're human sacrifices? If Maria had just read out loud was a vital part of the magic circle, then it was saying that sacrifices had to be offered in order for this magic circle to be effective. So, human sacrifices had been offered inside the storehouse, where the magic circle had been drawn. A heartbeat later, everyone else seemed to reach the same conclusion. Some people were shocked, and others spat out that this was insane as they punched their knees. This was starting to get incredibly disturbing, and we couldn't accept it or just understand it. I don't care what kind of magic circle or curses other people believe in. I won't pick a fight with them. But did they really kill Dad and the rest as sacrifices for crap like that? I just couldn't stand that feeling. Compared to this, I preferred it when we were still disgusted by that theory about the fight over the inheritance. As I started getting pissed off with a feeling between anger and sadness, I broke from the circle everyone was in and returned once again to the window. Something had gone insane since yesterday. It was that letter from the witch, Beatrice, that Maria had read aloud at last night's dinner. Ever since that point, it feels like like this whole mansion and this whole island have been getting more and more firmly locked inside some kind of bizarre world. That's right. When I think back on it, that letter was an invitation from the witch. The ruler of the night-and-time island had invited us inhabitants of the day into another world. The phone and the radio had been interrupted, and the island was shut off by the typhoon. So, you really could call this place another world cut off from the real one by now. Yeah, as this island is now, it's perfectly normal for a witch to send us letters and for human sacrifices to be offered up for the sake of magic circles. So what will happen next? Will some weird people wearing goat masks start doing the Bond Festival dance or something. It's hopeless, it's hopeless. I don't get it. Inside of my head's all screwed up, and I don't even know what to think. Anger, sadness, the opposing emotions all swirled up together, and they started to suck me in. Unable to resist, I could do nothing but cover my eyes with my hands and just trust my mind and body as I start getting sucked in. As I started losing heart, I began to recall a memory from when I was small. It was from when I was very young. I had unfortunately seen a scary occult movie on TV, and for a while, I hadn't even been able to go to the bathroom by myself. That old bastard gave an exaggerated laugh and said this. Hey, Battler, why do you think they go to all the trouble to make movies like this about demons and the occult and such? It's because they don't exist. Something that ridiculous can't be found anywhere on the planet. Because they don't exist, people want to see them and go to a lot of effort making them. That's why those occult movies just make me laugh. If I were forced to choose, I'd say, rather than demons and monsters, this year's earnings call and angry wives are 100 million times scarier. I'll go further, okay? From my point of view, getting scared is a recreational emotion, something for people who've got room to relax both in their hearts and their lifestyles. They had so much free time, they didn't know what to do with it, so in order to entertain their mind with unusual emotions, people started creating culture with demons and the occult and stuff. Seriously, why have I been acting so damn thick-headed? I was totally taken in. Don't try to mess with me. This is the human world. I don't give a damn about witches, demons, magic circles, and sacrifices. The human who killed Dad and everyone else is still on this island. That's all there is to it, right? The next person who started speaking in my heart was Kirie-san. You see, in both chess and shogi, when you reach the very, very last stage of the game and get closer and closer to cornering your opponent, the number of optimal moves you could possibly make gets smaller and smaller. Therefore, if you're backing someone against a wall, or if someone's doing the same to you, both players' moves become infinitely easier to read. In other words, when you're completely cornered and you think have no moves left, that's the moment when it's easiest to read your opponent. However, when a person is forced into a defensive position, they can't help but lose their ability to think clearly. So, they aren't able to get their minds around their opponent's moves. That's when you spin the chessboard around. With all my strength, I slapped my face with both hands. Now, my eyes were truly open. When you don't understand anything, and you're completely cornered, just like I am now, isn't that the perfect time to spin the chessboard around? While on the defensive, we can't even guess at the culprit's scheme. If we spin it around and look at it that way, just what might we see? First off, at the time the culprit committed the murders, they knew the island was being cut off by a typhoon. Therefore, they should have understood that even if they carried out the murders, they wouldn't be able to get away with it in early morning. I hate chess. I used to be part of a chess club, but that was a long time ago. One second. What the fuck is that? Here we go. Okay, sorry guys. You know how my ADHD brain goes. Alright, they wouldn't be able to get away early the next morning. I'm so itchy! In short, the culprit had begun without securing a way to escape. Furthermore, that bastard tossed the corpses into the storehouse. Then was even kind enough to say, "Here they are," with that weird bit of graffiti. In other words, since we'd probably find the corpses sooner or later, they wanted to show them to us. If we all had been dim and hadn't noticed the storage shed, the culprit's goal would not have been achieved, would it? If you think about it that way, that bastard of a culprit, since this morning, they must have been watching our every move with bated breath. After all, if we hadn't been so kind as to discover what was on the storehouse, all of that hard work and preparation they did last night would have just gone poof. What did the culprit want to make us feel by showing us the corpses in the storehouse? All 6 of the bodies had their faces noticeably destroyed. Was it a grudge? A warning? The defacement of the bodies had occurred after death, so it hadn't been the means by which the culprit had killed. It didn't mean anything to those who had been killed. It did have meaning to those who found the bodies. The culprit wanted to make it appear they had been killed so brutally. After thinking this way, I really wanted to tell that bastard to stop taking me so lightly. Who'd just dance to that tune? If you're told, "Please be scared," you can't say, "Really? Sure thing." When someone tells the great Ushidamiya battler, the entrance is right there, I'm the kind of guy who'll start wanting to sneak in through the window. The next thing that had me concerned was that so-called magic circle on the shutter. As Maria, who had shown that her knowledge of the occult rivaled grandfather's, had recognized that that magic circle was genuine. They must have drawn that thing in pitch-black darkness, taking a lot of time and holding an umbrella in one hand. Isn't that the amount of hard work of perfectionism impressive? Oh, I'm breaking out in itchiness. What purpose would have been worth all of that effort? If we were looking for a fan of the occult in this mansion, most likely all of us would naturally suspect grandfather. Oh my god, you guys. I have to take some antihistamine stuff. My skin is bleeding right now from how itchy it is. Hold on. Did they want us to make us think grandfather was involved? But, if that's all they wanted, they could have just drawn any old scribble that looked like a magic circle. It wasn't like any of us amateurs would be able to tell the difference between genuine and fake. However, this magic circle was genuine, and furthermore, it had been written in Hebrew. So this magic circle had a message that could only be understood by someone with knowledge of the occult. A message is a form of communication. By sending it, they were hoping for a reaction. A reaction? For some reason, we couldn't find Grandfather now. I don't know how Grandfather might have spotted the magic circle on the shutter, but did he choose to hide himself in reaction to that? No. Was it a trap to make us suspect that Grandfather had participated? You could read it either way. Damn, that's annoying. What kind of reaction was the culprit hoping to get out of us by putting on this occult show? Somehow that felt like the culprit's weak point. The letter from Beatrice that Maria had read aloud during last night's dinner sprang back into my mind. This was a freak who'd asked us to enjoy a battle of wits. Isn't that interesting? This is a battle of wits between us and the witch. Will we be sucked up by her occult game first? Or will we pull off her fake skin first? There's a whole day until the typhoon passes. Why not enjoy ourselves? We get it, Lore. You're a nerd. What do you mean? I'm a nerd. I'm itchy. That's not nerdism. I'm very itchy. Oh, chess club. That was like from forever ago. I'm sorry. I didn't see that till now. Sorry. Oh, now I'm not a nerd. I'm just a lame-o.
I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? Everybody now, whoa. I love something else.
I don't know, sorry. I love Umineko. I'm a loser, me. I finally noticed that the inside of the parlor had gone quiet again. Everyone had sunk into their favorite sofas, some deep in thought, some irritated, some acting depressed. Maria was once again enjoying the TV as if she'd never left it. It looked like she found the commercials more fun than the boring program, and she happily yelled, "Ooh, ooh," and giggled. It's okay to be a loser. At least you don't play roulette. Yeah, exactly. I'm no gambler. I stared at each person's appearance in turn. If there's isn't a 19th person, the culprit must be in this room. Right now, Aunt Natsuhi's searching the mansion with the servants, right? Then we shouldn't stay in this room. Then we shouldn't say in this room. In this mansion is where the culprit has to be. After all, it's possible Aunt Natsuhi was behind this. And we still can't deny that one of the servants might be the killer. Anyone could be guilty. Still, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest sure are taking their time. Of course, it's not a small mansion, but isn't this taking a little too long to just walk around checking the windows and doors? Just as I was thinking this, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest returned. Not one of them was missing. But our relief was short-lived. Everyone looked at Aunt Natsuhi in shock. The talk I'd had with Aunt Ava started to creep back into my mind. The possibility that the culprits had enough in numbers or weapons to kill all of those 6 people at once? Forgive me if I've startled you. I brought this to be prepared for the worst. After all, that thing in Aunt Natsuhi's hand was a rifle. At a glance, its silhouette looked a lot like a hunting gun. But it was unusually short and kind of looked like a kid-sized weapon. However, it had a weightiness to it that made it clear it was no kid's toy. That gun is Kinzo's, isn't it? Did you know about it? That's right. I remembered it was Father's old collection, and I managed to find it. Whoa! Awesome! Natsuhi-san, is that thing real? Yes, it's real. It can fire live ammunition. Long ago, Father used it to scare away wild birds. That takes me back. Where did you find that thing? No matter how much I asked him to let me touch it, he never let me lay even one finger on it. Badass mom! Click, click, boom! Natsuhi's my favorite. I love Natsuhi. Oh, grandfather had one of these? I didn't know that. Long ago, grandfather was really addicted to cowboy films. That generation really liked this kind of rifle. Is that a Winchester? But I've never seen one of that sort before. I adore Natsuhi. Underrated, babe. For real. Ah! I remember. It's that gun. That really takes me back. That's the one Steve McQueen fired off and wanted, dead or alive. Father sure has good tastes. It is an item the master ordered specially from America long ago. As you can see, it is a working gun, so please don't tell anyone about this. Gun laws are really strict in Japan.
He was quite fond of it right after he managed to acquire it. It seems the workings that injected the cartridges were more interesting to him than shooting it, and he played around with it back in the forest all the time.
Superior Merc. Still, it's rather disturbing. Are you sure you should be dragging this out? This is to prepare for the worst. There was probably more than one offender involved. Furthermore, those horrible people killed 6 of us, including my husband. I have a responsibility to protect everyone until tomorrow, in my husband's place. As Natsuhi said this, she slumped down into one of the sofas and took a deep breath. She had been trying to find grandfather, as well as check the doors and windows. Since grandfather wasn't with her, she probably still didn't know where he was. I carefully checked all of the doors and windows throughout the mansion. However, we must be prepared for anything. Everyone, I think it would be best if we all remained here. Oh, good point. If everyone's gathered here, then we can all feel more secure by keeping an eye on each other. What do you mean by that, Eva-san? Nothing, really. I'm just agreeing with your opinion, aren't I? There was a stormy atmosphere between the two of them. If you think about who was the most suspicious from the inheritance problem standpoint, Aunt Ava was the obvious answer. However, there was no proof that Aunt Natsuhi was innocent. No, if you view Beatrice's letter as one of grandfather's complicated pranks, and think of this crime as just an extension of that, there's more than enough reason to suspect even grandfather. Also, Aunt Natsuhi thought the criminal was on the outside. But Aunt Ava thought the criminal was on the inside. In short, it was a question of whether or not a 19th person exists. That same question has been repeated endlessly since last night's dinner, with a letter from the witch who called herself Beatrice. So was the culprit among us? Or not? And did the witch Beatrice exist? Or not? If you assume that something as stupid as a witch can't exist, you're basically saying that one of these relatives here, who share a common bloodline, is the culprit. If that was too unpleasant, it'd be much more comfortable to simply accept the fairy tale-like character of the witch. A witch. A witch drawing a bizarre magic circle and offering human sacrifices? If I could accept that rubbish, I'd be able to trust all the people in this room. However, damn common sense got in the way. It kept repeating that witch doesn't exist. In that case, the culprit must be among us. In the middle of the seemingly endless rain. None of us could break the silence. Been a good couple hours, about 3.5 hours, I think. Lunch ended, and the servants removed the tableware and went to the kitchen. Oh, sorry, I'm zoning out. The wind and rain neither weakened nor strengthened, and the island remained cut off from the outside world. At first, it seemed as though Natsuhi's plan stopped... At first, it seemed as though Natsuhi planned to stop... Oh, okay, sorry. At first, it seemed as though Natsuki planned to stop anyone from taking a step outside of the room. But when it came to time to prepare lunch, she finally realized this would be impossible. However, in order to avoid having anyone alone in the kitchen, she told the 3 servants to go together. Because of that, the servants were the first ones given the right to leave the stuffy parlor, which had been packed with 11 people. Since breakfast had immediately followed that terrible incident, preventing most of us from eating much, everyone tore into their lunches in silence.
I will wash the dishes, so you can rest a while, Kanin-kun. Genji-san. Do you want something to drink?
I don't need anything. Kanin? I don't need anything either.
You two must have been so busy, and so early in the morning. It's no wonder you're worn out.
The only noise was that of Kumasawa's washing the dishes, which resounded throughout the kitchen. Genji and Kanin sat in some chairs a short distance away, their eyes lightly closed. Just as Kumasawa had said, those two had probably built up a great deal of fatigue. But that didn't mean they could let it show in front of the relatives. Oh my god, I can hear someone giggling. But that didn't mean they could let it show in front of the relatives. Avoiding that was one of their virtues. After the silence had continued for some time, Kanin opened his mouth and muttered, Shannon. Why? Why did she have to die in such a horrible way? Forget about the manner of her death. It was nothing more than bad luck. You're right. It was nothing more than bad luck. They both fell silent once again. Kanin's expression was filled with grief.
To think that Shannon-chan's actually dead. I still can't believe it. Poor thing. Not being able to see her again feels like a lie. I just wanted to see her smiling face one more time.
Kumasawa spoke with her back facing them. After all, Kumasawa hadn't seen Shannon's corpse, so she had no trouble mentioning Shannon's face. When Kanin heard those words, it reminded him again of how only half of Shannon's face had been left, and his grieving expression twisted even further. Why did Beatrice-sama do that to Shannon? If she wanted a sacrifice, there were plenty of others to choose from. Why? Why? It was nothing more than bad luck. If we were less lucky, you or I might have been lying out there instead of Shannon. Or it could have been someone else entirely. Everything is left to fate. Genji-san. You said the door to Madame's room was stained with traces of something like blood, right? The same substance that was painted on the shutter? Indeed. It was an unsettling mark. Almost as though someone with blood-stained fingers had been trying to pull out the doorknob. No scratch through the door. That sort of unpleasant mark. So does this mean Beatrice-sama came to visit Madame's room and tried to open the door, but couldn't? Genji thought back to the time he had seen those traces of blood on the door to Natsuki's room. With the substance sticking to the door around the doorknob, and the marks of something scratching against the door, it had definitely appeared as though someone had tried to open the door but couldn't. How? Did the madam avoid being chosen as a sacrifice? If only she'd been chosen, Shannon wouldn't have had to die. Just then, a loud, sharp noise came in from the hall. Both of them turned around, surprised. That's a pretty interesting chat you're having there. Let me join in too. Before any of the servants realized it, Battler was standing in the doorway to the kitchen. Battler-sama. How rude of us. Genji-san and Kanen-kun stood up, surprised, and hastily bowed. But I didn't care about stuff like that. I was more concerned with continuing their discussion. I told them I was going to the bathroom, so they let me go. I thought I'd suffocate if I was locked up in that room any longer. I was about to come ask you guys for some water, but then I overheard something pretty interesting. You don't need me to bow your heads or anything. Please, let me hear the rest. That just now wasn't really... I've been listening to you for a while. Don't try to hide it now. So, I'll ask directly. Who is this Beatrice? She's supposed to be a witch from a kid's story, but it doesn't look that way now. Kanen-kun averted his gaze. It was obvious that he didn't want to talk about this, which only made me want to ask even more. While making an effort to smile, I grabbed the collar of his shirt. Last night, this would have been none of my business. But after this morning, everything's changed. Now that Dad and the rest have been killed, this is totally my business. I have the right to listen to this suspicious story, don't I? I glared into Kanen-kun's eyes, as he continued to avert his gaze in apparent pain. Since there was a big difference in our heights, Kanen had to stand on his toes and looked like it hurt a bit. Battler-san, please let go of him. Kanen-san isn't really hiding anything. Then you won't have any problem talking about it, right? It's lonely being out of the loop, you know? When I tried to further twist up his collar, Genji-san cut between us and spoke. In his expression were faint traces that he'd made up his mind to do something. Apparently, he had no intention of hiding it. I can tell you about it. Kanen only hesitated because you might have taken it badly, Battler-sama. Hesitating, huh? Not very manly of you. Whatever it is you're talking about, it's even more unpleasant having it kept a secret. Tell me about it. It's not like we've had anything better to do before tomorrow comes. A slightly spooky story might be the best way to avoid getting bored. Genji-san and Kanen-kun looked at each other, then nodded as though they were decided to talk. Understood. Please, ask us anything. We will talk. Right. Then I'll ask. Who in the world is Beatrice? All I know is that she's a witch who lives in the forest of Rokkenjima. I've heard it's a story grandmother or someone invented to keep people out of the dangerous forest. Is that wrong? No, it isn't wrong. Tiny cannon! Small cannon! It's as you say. Beatrice is a witch who dwells in the forest of Rokkenjima. Battler-sama, I don't expect you to believe all this all of a sudden, but Beatrice-sama exists. Be nice to him. He's furniture. Delicate. Yes. She is a real person, the one who gave the master a vast amount of gold, and who worked by his side for many years. Huh? Oh, come on. Is grandfather paying you to repeat everything he says? I laughed like it was a joke, but neither Genji nor Kanen laughed. Not even Kumasawa-bachan, who was avoiding my eyes. Flustered. As she started washing the dishes. So unfortunately, I was the only one laughing. Painfully, bitterly. I see. That's why Genji-san refused to mention it. If you really mean it, of course I'd take it badly. So, you're saying that a person named Beatrice actually exists? Yes. She has been working for the Master since before the mansion was built on this island. She has most likely been working for him for even longer than I have. What do you know? Kirei-san's theory was off. Grandfather really did have a confidant named Beatrice. Beatrice. Is that person on the island now? Yes. I believe that she's here. That's a vague way to say it. I guess that means you haven't seen her face today or yesterday.
Beatrice!
Bubba, would you like to do the honors? That is correct. It is extremely difficult to say, but... Canon once again dropped his gaze, avoiding my eyes. Come on, don't just stop there. That's like freezing an inch before the blow, right? I urged him on jokingly again. However, it looked like Canon was still confused as to whether he should speak or not. Then Kumasawa Bachan whispered. Uh-oh. You cannot see her face, because Beatrice-sama has no form. She has no... What did you say? Beatrice-sama has no body. Therefore, unless Beatrice-sama wishes it, common people like us are not able to see her form. I have heard that the portrait shows what Beatrice-sama looked like back when she had a human form. It seems he yearned for that figure so much, he would often stand in front of that portrait. Beatrice-sama sometimes shows herself by changing her form into glittering butterflies. On the rare occasion that you spot them somewhere in the mansion, there is a rule that you absolutely mustn't chase after them. It is whispered that you'll meet with disaster if you do. In fact, there was a servant who broke that rule and quit because of a great injury. Wait a sec, are you kidding me? Are you all serious about this? Battler-sama, Beatrice-sama has already arrived. Such language may be unwise. Beatrice-sama does not like it when she is profaned. If you doubt her existence, you will surely meet with disaster. Battler-san, you probably find this topic unpleasant, but you know what? Beatrice-sama does exist. She exists. Beatrice-sama hates people who doubt that. Can't you tell, Battler-sama? Beatrice-sama has already arrived here. Come on, quit it. I'm weak against that stuff. Enough with the cheap threats. Oh, my nose is so itchy. No, itchy nose. However, there was no trace of a joke in the eyes of the three servants. On the surface, I laughed and tried to look unconcerned, but I was quickly starting to sober up. Their eyes were also sobering up fast.
Whoa! Beatrice!
Thank you, Diggity Dave.
Battler-san, I beg that you stop profaning Beatrice-sama. Please trust me.
Kumasawa Bachan, who was usually cheerful and would always tease people, now spoke with a totally serious face. What? Well... Even if you say she exists, I don't see anything. Are you trying to say she's standing right next to me or something? Quit joking around. Just then, that unnerving laugh suddenly filled the kitchen. When I turned around, Maria was standing there by the entrance. But her expression and the feeling about her, her presence, felt exactly the same as the servants.
Whether your wavelength matches or not is determined at birth. Battler, you were born with a mismatched wavelength. That's why you can't see her. That's why you can't meet with her. And that's why you can't talk to her. You're the type Beatrice hates the most.
Maria laughed like it was funny, but it sounded extremely eerie. It was almost like she was laughing at me because I alone didn't understand.
Do you want to know about Beatrice? Beatrice is a 1,000-year-old witch. With all of the demons at her command, she can harness the power of alchemy to create the Philosopher's Stone and a vast quantity of gold. Grandfather built up all the vast wealth of the Ushirimiya family by making a contract with her.
Oh, Maria's voice is killing my vocal cords.
Yesterday, I read Beatrice's letter, didn't I? That was real. Well, I guess it's pointless for me to try to force you to believe. After all, it looks like you were born without a trace of a sixth sense.
What are you talking about? Witches? Demons? Who told you about that?
I heard it from Beatrice herself.
Maria kept doing that unpleasant laugh. However, the servants who watched over this didn't even blink. She heard it from that witch in the portrait adorning the entrance hall. Maria kept on laughing in a weird voice, as though this was nothing more or less than the truth. Maria, it might be rude to ask, but I'll ask one more time, okay? Who gave you that letter yesterday?
I got it from Beatrice. How many times must I tell you before you understand? You don't get it, do you? You can't see it. You can't believe it, can you?
Just then, Maria's laughter suddenly stopped.
Battler, you still don't understand. Beatrice-sama exists.
She exists, you say. But where?
Like I said, Beatrice-sama exists here.
That's right. Now that I think about it, I've been feeling for a while now, but the servants' eyes haven't been pointed quite in the right direction. I'd figured they were just staring absent-mindedly, but that wasn't the case. The four here, Genji, Kanon, Kumasawa-san, and Maria, everyone except me was looking at a spot right behind me. Holding my breath tightly, I slowly looked over my shoulder. Of course, there wasn't anyone there. I've known that the whole time. However, everyone in the room except me was focusing on that point as if there was someone there.
Beatrice is the mighty golden witch who has lived for 1,000 years. But since she can't show her form to humans of the wrong wavelength, she can't talk to them. And you know what? That's really sad. It means she truly despises it when people like you, who were born without a fragment of the ability needed to sense magic, deny that she exists. You're lucky, Battler. Good thing I gave you that charm yesterday, right? Don't you realize what kind of curse Beatrice would have put on you by now if you hadn't been carrying it around? You really are lucky, Battler.
Oh, that scorpion keychain. I thought that was just some cheap gift or something. But you're saying it actually had some power.
If it weren't for that, you'd be lying in that storehouse as a sacrifice with your face crushed by now. You're so lucky, Battler.
I see. So if it weren't for that, I'd have been killed by now.
Battler, why don't you believe in Beatrice? Even though she exists. Right now, over there. Look. Hey, I'll bet you want to believe it now. Believe it. And thank me for giving you that charm. If it weren't for that, you'd be in the storehouse right now. But then, maybe you would have saved someone else in exchange, right?
Right then, I burst into laughter. Playing witches had been pretty fun up until a second ago, but unfortunately, that last one seemed to be too much for me to gloss over. She got that crazy laugh down too, though. It's all useless, isn't it, Maria? If that's true, then I'm sorry, but it's all useless. When Maria saw me suddenly start laughing, she stopped. Even though she didn't understand that I was laughing at what I was laughing at, she realized I wouldn't be pleasant for her. I thought it might hurt you, so I didn't say it earlier, but... Well, I thought I'd put that charm you gave me in my pocket. But I must have dropped it somewhere. So the charm can't be the only reason I'm alive now, and even though I should have been cursed by the witch, I'm perfectly fine. Sorry, but I don't believe in things I don't see with my own eyes. Sixth senses, wavelengths, magic sensitivity. Sorry, I don't believe in fake stuff like that. When I hear the girls in class start talking about how good or bad their ability to sense the supernatural is, it pisses me off. I don't know how much grandfather is paying you, but if you're trying to talk me into joining some cult, believe me, you won't be able to do that easily. Battler-sama. You guys are free to believe whatever you want. However, when it comes to things I believe, the one who decides is always me. Sorry, but I can't believe in something as shady as Beatrice until I've seen her with my own eyes. I spoke forcefully and sharply. Then Maria started cackling again.
Well, that's just fine, isn't it? Eventually, even people like you, totally mismatched wavelengths, will be able to see Beatrice. Very soon, she will revive. Beatrice will revive. Once that happens, she's promised to talk with me and play with me a lot. There'll be absolutely no need for you to doubt, for us to force you to believe. She will appear very soon.
After a meal, some people tend to head to the bathroom, while others prefer to relax for a bit. Ugh, I can't talk. Whew. Alright, give me a second. Maria's voice is too high for my throat to handle. It's just cringe, bro. I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so cringe. I don't mean to be cringe. I don't mean to be cringe. Cringe all over the place. I'm so fucking cringe. Thank you, Diggity Dave. Oh, thank you for the head pats, Bubba. Oh. Ah. Yum, 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 yum. I'm getting something for dinner. I have not eaten yet today. Well, no, I had breakfast. I should say I haven't eaten since breakfast today. I know I shouldn't. There we go. But it's Matsu's fault. Matsu had sushi today. And I haven't had sushi in a long-ass time. Wait a minute. Delivered? Hold on. I'm waiting for a replacement thing from Amazon. Alright, I have to talk to Sanbo. Did he... Hold on. Sorry, guys. Quick BRB. Hey, I am back. Sorry. Okay, so Amazon, I got my mom a Christmas present, and it's a couple things. One of them is like charms, and I need, you know, the charms. I got everything else, and then I got a package delivered yesterday, or 2 days ago, that was supposed to have 3 items in it. A thing for my dad, a thing for my brother, and then the charms for my mom. Well, the charms weren't in there. So I had to say, hey, look, this wasn't delivered. Okay, we'll send a replacement on Saturday. And I'm like, sweet. And then I didn't get the notification that was delivered. I just checked and it says it was. I was like, bullshit. Hasn't been anything today. Nobody knocked. Once again, nobody knocked. I go out there, the fucking package. Now, mind you, Amazon has those like giant fucking... Oh god, this is... Yeah, this is gonna have to be, This is gonna need some adjusting. But they put it in one of those like really flimsy envelopes, and mind you, they're charms for a bracelet. They weigh maybe an ounce. And the thing's blown into the yard. Like, almost blown away into the night. I'm like, it's such bullshit. Go fuck yourself, Amazon. Like, come on. Put it in my mailbox. Put it in the door. Something. Anything. Like, are you really gonna just put it in my lawn and then have it blow away? Fucking assholes. Oh, I gotta try to get that taken care of. What a charming story. Shut up, blah, blah. Alright, sushi's been ordered. You know what we haven't done in a while? We haven't saved. Okay. Thank you, blah blah. Thanks, Scamazon, for real. I'm so fucking done with Amazon. But they're practical. That's the only downside, is they're practical.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
After a meal, some people tend to head to the bathroom, while others prefer to relax for a bit. It seemed that several people had left the parlor, just like I did when I went to the kitchen to drink some water. In the end, Aunt Natsuhi's reluctantly retracted her order that everyone remain packed into the parlor, on the condition that no one headed out on their own or strayed too far. In any case, if 11 people are shut up in the same room starting early in the morning, the air will start to stagnate. Also, quite some time had passed, so everyone was starting to recover from the shock of that morning, and their sense of danger might have been weakening too. However, it was a certain fact that 6 people had been killed inside of this mansion, so no one was completely negligent. So whenever they went out into the hallway for a breath of fresh air, trying to act tough, they would quickly get scared of standing there, isolated, and would eventually return to the parlor. I guess it's like the north wind in the sun. If you force someone to stay shut in, they'll resist, but if you tell them to do whatever they want, they'll choose to come back obediently. People really do not like doing what they're told. When the servants finished cleaning up from the meal, they returned obediently to the parlor, just as Aunt Natsuhi had told them to, and sat on a sofa near the entrance, patiently awaiting orders. Maria, almost as though she had just suddenly finished playing witches, had returned to the pure Maria I knew well, saying, "Ooh, hi, Bagheera." Saying, "Ooh, ooh. Do you want to say hi, everyone?" Yeah. What's up, Bags? Huh? What's up? Yeah. Are you a bubby? Are you a boy? I love you. You're stinky. You can't turn off my PC anymore while I'm reading Umineko. I put a button cover. Mwah! Stinky. It's a baby. It's a baby. What in the world happened back there? I hadn't felt even an atom of the presence of this person called Beatrice, who was supposedly standing behind me, invisible. However, I felt like I glimpsed a little of that presence inside Maria. You're right. When Maria starts talking about witches, her personality changes. Batman, you also saw it down by the beach yesterday, right? You mean that scorpion keychain? No, I don't mean like when her feelings were hurt. I'm talking about her having a dual personality or something. There's so much remember. There's a baby. Yeah, blah blah. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. That thing Maria did when she was talking about the magic circle does happen every now and then. It's freaky though. Apparently, Jessica had spotted that hee Maria had a few times. I just happened to catch it at a bad moment. It was pretty freaked out, and was pretty freaked out seeing it for the first time. So what is that? Does Maria have a dual personality or something? Or are you saying that her spiritual sense really is that strong, and she's being possessed by a spirit or whatever? No, I don't think it's that. Haven't you ever experienced it? When you were small, didn't you ever want to be someone other than yourself? When humans are born, no one has any individuality. However, when they reach their growth period, their sense of self starts to be born. They want to be different than other people. But since everyone else in their class is learning the same things at the same rate and being forced into the same lifestyle, of course they aren't going to find anything that makes them different from anyone else around them. Once they realize that, the first thing they do is to start breaking the rules in what's called their rebellious stage. Since everyone else follows the rules, they want to show off their individuality by breaking them. So even those who try to act tough, mocking everyone around them, calling them childish, can actually be viewed as cute kids searching for themselves, if you look at it this way. Well, I'm lecturing about all this like I'm so smart, but I actually got it secondhand from George Aniki. I myself was one of those embarrassing guys who thought it was cool to act like a little bastard. Well, that was when I was at the age where you try to show off for the opposite sex. The main feature of the growing period lies in an impulse to break away from your life as a kid, like a chick trying to crack open the shell of their egg. You know what makes children and adults different? Age? Or do you mean size? No, it's experience. Adults can look down on children because children have very little life experience. The reason they snort at everything children say is because they think kids know nothing about the real world. Yeah, I understand that. When you're a kid, you talk like you've got it all figured out somehow, trying to act like an adult. No matter what kids say, adults just snort at them and say they're too naive, or that they'll understand when they get older or something. Girl, you're like 18. That's still a child. I'm sorry, you don't know anything. Well, it's probably true, but to a kid, it's just annoying, like they're being looked down upon. I get it. It's a question of knowledge and experience. Well, I guess you're right that there's no reason to respect a person for their age if they've just wasted their lives. Therefore, during the period when they try to separate themselves from other children, they also try to take on personality traits different from those around them. And if knowledge and experience is what separates kids and adults... Whoops. And if knowledge and experience is what separates kids and adults... I get it. If they know something no one else knows, it becomes part of their identity. You know, when...
Nice, Blibri. Way to add value to the stream.
Thank you, Bubba. And hello, Mecca! Hello! Hello! You know, when I was in elementary school, I'd learn things no one else knew, get things no one else had, wear things no one else wore, and became a bit of a hero for it. I'll bet you've done the exact same thing, Battler. Yeah. It was definitely in an age when I wanted to excel in some other skill. I see, so that's because I was trying to separate myself from being a child, or going through my growth period, in other words. If you put a positive spin on it, the growing period forces you to separate yourself from others, thereby pushing you to gain skills and knowledge no one else has. This is also interesting from a sociological standpoint. This is the stuff. I love you, Ryukishi, I truly do, but this is the stuff that is just... This doesn't feel like character building. It's just... filling so much air and time. This glorious yellow suit, I need it. Yeah! It's like a mustardy yellow-green. Bubba, you'd look fly in it. Could I pull it off like George can? No way. Hashtag we love Fat George. Other people This is also interesting from a sociological standpoint. Because people hate being like everyone else, they try to learn skills other people don't know. In this way, society can acquire the broad range of skills it needs to survive. The quality of the gods' programming is truly surprising. Well, unique personality traits can be negative, right? Like, if, say, everyone in the class is studying hard, but I was the only one slacking off, trying to stand out. Okay, that last bit really was true about me. It's only recently that I've been able to thank the middle school teacher who slapped me after school. But, well, I tried to jump over things no one else could, sprint as fast as I could, trying to lap those guys with good grades when we did a marathon. I just felt like doing it. It was in my nature that if I couldn't study well, then at least I could get back at them by exercising. I see. So I really did go through a proper growing period. I guess boys really do tend to focus more on physical stuff. But you know, girls at the same age tend to focus more on mental, spiritual things. I'll bet there were groups of girls in your class that really got interested in fortune-telling and their spiritual senses. Yeah, there were. They'd come over asking me for my sign and my blood type. Then they'd laugh.
Ah, I thought so. Giggle, giggle.
It really got on my nerves. No matter which class you go to, girls like fortune-telling. Deciding whether your spirit sense is strong or weak, what your sensitivity is, whether you can see the unseeable, that kind of thing. Definitely happened to me. That's because fortune-telling and spiritual senses are things that aren't that aren't taught in school. To girls, who tend to be more introverted, it's a genre that's easy to build an identity upon, and one that holds a lot of interest for them. Just like how when boys enter their growing period, they start acting tough and rebel against adults. When girls enter their growing period, they start getting interested in that kind of thing. Well, I didn't though. So, Maria's having so much interest in the occult isn't that rare amongst girls her age? Even if we accept that, I wonder if it explains that creepy dual personality thing. Actually, I think I probably could accept that explanation more or less. As you just said, becoming an adult means gaining knowledge and experience. So, to gain that, it's necessary for children to learn all sorts of things and break free from childhood. However, there are certain convenient delusions that you see often in the world of children, both now and in the past. Do you know what I mean? You see it all the time in manga and anime, right? It's kind of like that. Like you've got memories from a previous life that start to resurface. Like you're being possessed by the soul of a great something or whatever. Or it could be that a sleeping gene has awakened. Or maybe a sealed power of memory returns. There's all kinds. For some reason, stuff like that's pretty popular at that age. Why is that? All of those samples you've just mentioned are illusions that let children immediately add to their sum of knowledge and experience. If a 9-year-old girl says she has a 1,000-year-old witch possessing her, and she gains a 1,009-year-old identity. So basically, studying is annoying, but these delusions are convenient for people who want to brag about having a skill no one else has, amazing the people around them. So you can brag about something without having to work hard or study. I see. Isn't that a kid's greatest dream? Furthermore, in their desire to separate themselves from being kids, they'll always project an image of their ideal self. And it's not rare for that desired self to become an alternate personality. Even you, Battler-kun, probably had a slightly different personality at home and at school, right? It'd probably be embarrassing if your friend at school saw how you were at home. At school, you try to project yourself as who you want to be, but home is where your true self. So, in other words, I'm changing my personality depending on the situation. Are you trying to say having multiple personalities is actually really common? A girl who's a fan of the occult might say she's being possessed or awakened. Honestly, there are some kids who change their personality so much it's creepy. And some boys do it too, right? Guys who say they've blown their top and suddenly turn into some overplayed violent character. I'll bet they think it's pretty cool, but it's painful to watch. Let's sum this all up. So you're saying that even if a girl, about Maria's age, shows a creepy second personality like she did a minute ago, it isn't such a rare or unusual thing? Simply put, that's right. This entire thing took like 20 minutes, and I'm sorry, but it could have been summed up. God, I wish I could read the manga on stream. So bad. I wish I could just read the manga on stream. I know that's probably blasphemous to so many people, but like, there's just so much fat that needs to be trimmed. This entire section took like 10 or 15 minutes to read through for me. And it all could just been summed up in probably a 60-second read. This is classic 07. He gets a bit better. Yeah, I know, but that's Kikonia, and there's only one. Like, there's nothing else now. It's just, I know. I love Ryukishi. I truly, truly do. But him repeating himself and just shoving in so much unnecessary dialogue and stuff. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this stew. I want to get the fat out. I know you feel my pain, but I just feel bad on stream when I want people to enjoy the experience, but then it's also like, well, sometimes the experience is a little slow. It's a little painful sometimes, unfortunately. Okay, let's continue. If you make fun of it, it could actually cause children to go back into their shells. So, it's important to go along with them to some degree. Although, the broad-mindedness of the parent determines whether they play along in full or not. I'm waiting for my food to arrive. Aniki, I can't believe you're single. You sound like you've already raised kids through middle school. So, I wonder if Aunt Rosa also knew much about Maria's dual personality. I don't think I'd notice if I'm reading this in my room because I'm bored, but showing it off on stream is different. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's part of it too, is if I was just reading this in my head, like, I'd be like click, 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 going pretty fast. But yeah, having to read it out loud on stream and stuff, that's where it takes up a lot of time. So I wonder if Aunt Rosa also knew much about Maria's dual personality. She knew about it. Just between us, Aunt Rosa really hated it. She said it was unpleasant and that Maria was becoming increasingly isolated from the rest of the class. So anytime Maria started talking about the occult or laughing like a witch, she'd slap her. And it looks like Maria stopped talking that way in front of her. Maybe that thing back there was just a little game from a girl facing her growing period. Just a girl trying to show that she is different and independent by holding interest in witches and the occult. And since she wanted to be different from herself, young as she was switching between her normal personality and the personality of her ideal, a witch. At first, I found that very disturbing. But after being lectured by George Aniki, it felt like this was a path everyone walked down at one time or another. I haven't told anyone, but when I was in kindergarten, I joined up with a little gang of kids trying to form an Earth Defense Force, saying we'd help protect peace on Earth. My face turns red when I remember it now. During what we called battle practice, we would chant EDF! EDF! Just like usual, Maria was relaxing, immersed in the TV, oohing and laughing, just like any girl her age. But on the inside, another personality, that of the ideal witch she respected and blindly accepted, was sleeping. But that wasn't anything extraordinary. It was perfectly natural for a girl of her age. No, it's definitely not, though. That's the thing, is there is, and then there isn't. I've calmed down a little. The shock from my bizarre experience in the kitchen just now is fading away. If I hadn't talked to Aniki and Jessica, I might still be frightened by the idea that an invisible witch is standing right behind me. Yoi's lady friend says, well,
Hello, Yoi's lady friend! Mwah, mwah, mwah! Mwah!
However, can I really accept that as an explanation for what happened back there? If it had just been Maria, I could have explained it as a fickle delusions of a growing girl.
Yoi redeemed. Ara, 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 ara. Ora, ora. Ora, ora.
Why are you going that way, girl? You're weird. Let's see. Sorry. Okay. The Genji-san, Kanen-kun, Kumasawa-bachan had also been there. None of them had denied what Maria said. They silently accepted that Beatrice exists. I was starting to feel a little uneasy. Aunt Ava's position was that no 19th person existed, that the crime was an inside job tied to the family quarters. On the other hand, Aunt Natsuki's position was that the culprit was hiding somewhere outside the mansion. So she rejected the possibility of an inside job and supported the idea of that 19th person existing. And in the kitchen, Maria and the servants had also supported the idea of a 19th person. But according to them, this 19th person isn't a human. They said it was an invisible witch carrying out some mysterious plan. Oda, oda. Scary. Is there a 19th person or not? And is the culprit human or a witch? For some reason, I couldn't just laugh off any of those possibilities. Not even the most ridiculous story about the witch. Jessica, all I know about the story of the witch is that the adults made it up to keep the kids too scared to enter the forest. But is the story different here in the mansion? I feel the same way you do, okay? I think it was just a stupid ghost story that the parents made up so their kids would listen to them. But I can't deny that the atmosphere inside the mansion makes it a little hard to say it out loud. After all, Grandfather was proclaiming that Beatrice exists, and because of their position, servants can't doubt that. Even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsuki don't want to get into a fight with him, so on the surface, they go along with it. So it's probably fair to say that doubting the existence of Beatrice is taboo to those who live and work in this mansion. Unlike the rest of us, who can only come here once a year. Is that right? Jessica took a deep breath in admiration. It looked like Aniki had guessed right. It's just like you say. No one really believes it on the inside. But on the outside, they accept that she exists. See, it's just like the way some people are about God. Even if they know God doesn't exist, they feel like it'd be uncouth if they actually said it out loud. Mandatory chatter chatter. Hello! Hello! Aiku. How do you think the servants feel about it? Are they just going along with it because Grandfather, their employer, says she exists? Well, I don't really know the details. But between the servants, the story about Beatrice has been treated like a sort of ghost story. Remember yesterday, when Shannon was talking to us down by the beach? That story about one night when she was doing the rounds in the mansion, she saw something unsettling. She did say something like that, didn't she? Back then, I thought she was just being really nice to help improve Maria's mood. But it felt like she was serious when she said it. That's right, she definitely said it. She definitely said the same kind of thing that Genji and the rest had all unanimously declared back in the kitchen.
In addition, some servants have been seen will-o'-the-wisps and glittering butterflies dancing around. Haden-kun also saw something like that when he went patrolling one night. And recently, you often hear servants talking about strange footsteps heard inside the mansion near midnight. We've whispered together that the Beatrice Sama in the portrait sometimes makes herself invisible and walks through the mansion. It happened a while ago, but even I heard footsteps while patrolling at night that resembles those stories.
That's right, she definitely said that. Exactly the same thing I had been told just now.
But there's nothing to be afraid of. Beatrice Sama is another ruler of this mansion, separate from the master. So, there's no need to be unnaturally afraid. If you respect her, I hear she won't do anything bad.
However, she can be quite terrifying if you don't respect her, right?
Correct. I've heard that just before I began working here. Someone spoke badly about Beatrice Sama fell down the stairs and quit after receiving a large injury to their back. Because of that, there was a rumor between the servants that Beatrice Sama's anger had been brought down upon this person.
If you don't respect her, you'll suffer her wrath and get hurt. So, to the servants, Beatrice's existence is just as credible as the story that, if you pull pranks on Inari-san, you'll receive Kutsune-sama's curse. Of course, even though everyone accepts that curses and don't exist in the modern era, people are still afraid and still have a little respect for them. Lady Yoi says your model is cute. Thank you! I don't know why she... No, make her own Twitch.
Thank you, Lady Yoi! Wow!
This is all of me. This is all of me. I'm small, I'm tiny, I'm a fawn. Hi! Oh. Hold on, guys. I need to get some warm socks on. I got these fuzzy socks that are shaped like cat paws. So when you put them on, it looks like you have cat paws! I gotta cut the... Everything's falling apart! There we go. Alright. Gotta get the little plastic doohickey out though. There we go. And then there should be one more. Nope, that's it. Alright, I'm putting on socks. Now my feet look like cat paws. I got paw pads on the bottom. It's so cute. I'm adorable. Yes. Yes, I'm a cutie patootie with little cat feeties. Oh, hold on. Stretching. Where could my pipe be? Is my food here yet? I'll get my food. Ow! My food's here! Wah! Let me get some food out so I can actually eat a meal. Wah! And, wah! I bet Lady Yoi is a cutie patootie. That's a pair of scissors. That's that. And here's a blanket. Okay. Whew, I don't know how much longer we're going to be going, you guys. We're just about to hit the 3-hour mark on stream. Whew, boy. Let's see the next time we get to, like, a spot where it's like the end of a chapter kind of thing. We're on a video call while I wait to leave for Christmas market. Yes. Do I hear sushi? You do hear sushi. My food's finally here. I'm excited. Okay. Oh my god, tell me about it. What kind? How does it taste? The usual. Although I did get like a little side of steak too, because I needed some meat. I got the eel roll. It's got eel and salmon? No, eel, crab, and cream cheese. And then I have a side avocado roll, because avocados. Crab. Yes. Of course, even though everyone accepts that curses and the like don't exist in the modern era, people are still afraid and still have a little respect for them. You often see it when, in a residential area, someone in a building house, and they call a Shinto priest for a ceremony to honor the god of that plot of land. You might think that was just a big waste of time and money, but it is said that if the workers don't do that, a big accident will occur, so they never neglect to do it. You also hear about how if an Inari shrine is carelessly moved during a town replanning, there is a curse by Kitsune-sama. I think I've read somewhere that when the occupying forces were trying to expand an airport, they tried to remove an Inari-san that was in the way, and the workers kept getting struck down by mysterious fevers. Even modern cities like Tokyo, it wasn't rare to see modern buildings packed all around an old Inari shrine, leaving the shrine itself untouched. And this wasn't limited to Japan. It's probably similar to how foreigners baptize babies. If I remember correctly, by Christian doctrine, if unbaptized souls have even the slightest amount of sin, they'll go straight to hell. Putting water on a child's forehead doesn't do anything but make them cry. But if by doing just that, parents can prevent their children from going to hell, they'll happily go through with that ceremony. In short, even in this modern society of reason, we were still unable to throw away every trace belief in fear. You could even say that we accept certain sorts of supernatural things, though in a passive way. Maybe the only difference on this island is that Beatrice is the object of that worship. So in other words, if anything happens that doesn't seem inexplainable in human terms, it's called the work of Beatrice. I think Shannon Chan said it herself. Windows and doors and locks that were tightly shut would be open the next time you went to check them. Lights that should have been on went out, and lights that should have been out were turned on. And if I remember, even Jessica was joking about it, saying it was also the work of Beatrice when she couldn't find her bag in the morning. Your memory's pretty good. Normally, you'd say some little imps took them, but on this island, it's Beatrice. Well, it's all pretty stupid, though. This mansion has been standing for about 30 years by now, hasn't it? It's natural for things that old to get their fair share of ghost and occult stories. Like the 7 mysteries at school. But that's where I'll spin the chessboard around. Huh? Simply put, on this island, there's a rule that Beatrice gets blamed for anything that couldn't have been done by humans. Things that humans can't do. How many humans are here? 18. In other words, the culprit is using the rules of this island to make it look like a witch committed this crime, which proves that they desperately want us to think a 19th person did it. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. What do you mean you don't like it? Let's assume some invisible 19th person exists and wants people to know they exist. If it were me, I'd do it with even more perfect timing. I want to eat. What do you mean by perfect timing? Well, the crime took place between the middle of the night and dawn, right? We had some people who were talking together until the middle of the night. Some people on night shifts, and some people who returned to their rooms and were sleeping. Everyone's alibi is really vague, so there's plenty of room to suspect that the crime was an inside job. George Eniki, Aunt Ava, probably told you too, right? There's a good chance this crime was an inside job? Yeah, I guess. In other words, if this invisible 19th person really exists and wants us to know it, the first crime was a complete failure. No, in the first place, they chose the wrong time of day to do it. If this invisible 19th person really wanted to show themselves, they had to make sure that the crime took place under conditions which prove that the remaining 12 people were all innocent. As long as there's a single human we can suspect, this 19th person's attempt to highlight their presence fails. That's why near midnight, when everyone's alibis were at their Vegas, the 19th person's existence is also at its Vegas. And yet, the culprit chose to commit the crime at that time. By committing the crime then, one of the 18 would obviously be suspected. And yet, someone handed Maria the letter and called themselves a witch, even though everyone denies they did it. In other words, you're trying to say that one of the 18th is trying to make it look like a 19th person called Beatrice exists? That's a pretty crazy idea. I think Mom's theory about someone hiding outside the mansion is a bit more credible. Battler, don't tell me you actually think someone in this room is the culprit. I do. Someone's trying to force us to accept that Beatrice exists. That's right. This whole thing has started as far back as the letter last night. I don't have any bias or proof, but with that chessboard turned around, this is my best guess. Seriously? That's too crazy. You sure you haven't been reading too many weird detective novels? However, it's an angle we can't ignore. Oh my god, I wonder if anyone has ever thought to put one of the family crests on their leg via a tattoo. If someone did that, that would be so cool. I'd never unsub to that person. Oh my god, blah blah. Oh, you cracked me up. The culprit definitely planning something involving that rule about this island. Just now, listening to Battler Kun talk, I remember something that's a little disturbing. Something disturbing? Oh my god, I'm ready. Okay. I don't know, you guys. I think I have to. I've been reading now for quite a while. I'm so hungry. I need to take a break and eat. Honestly, though, I'm wondering if I should send a raid over. I have this food sitting in front of me. Just being so tantalizingly just like giving me the equivalent of like a food giving a little striptease, being like, hey, you want this? I'm like, yes I do. Like, too bad.